Next is public comment. If anyone cares to comment on anything, any agenda item, you have to state your name and a brief statement, please.
Are you talking about any agenda item that's on for tonight?
Yes.
So the public comment is now?
Yes.
Will there be more public comments later? Allowed or just now?
At the end of the meeting, there's other items of discussion. At the end, this is the only time for public comment. Yes. This is the only time for public comment.
You have to speak now, yeah. I just want to make, for the record, I want to state that from your last meeting, you did not approve the Miller Compressor Station in Harford. It was tabled, and since that time, the Miller Compressor Station, we have reports from neighbors there that it's been running, and I would like the county to enforce their own laws, which is if you don't approve something, it should not be running for the past month. And that's been happening right now. Do you know that that's been happening? Has anybody been informed that Williams has been running that compressor station, even if it's 2 compressors out of 5 are partial running? Has anybody been informed about that by Williams? Do you answer questions or you just take comments?
I believe we're taking public comment.
So you're not answering any questions? And Williams, I don't see any Williams reps here at this time. And that's been running. And I'd like to say that we are asking also Harford to enforce their laws and ordinances uniformly. They've been enforcing their noise ordinance for gas sites, for gas companies, and we want them to enforce for this compressor station. And that they filed a noise ordinance in April of 2013, which I just found out, I think it was today or yesterday. I asked Bob Templeton to look up and see if there's anything filed, and he looked in the file for Harford, and it was filed, the noise ordinance, in 2013. And last month, when we made the comments about the noise ordinances, none of you expressed any knowledge of that noise ordinance. So I accept that you didn't know, but the thing is, it was filed, and you were notified in 2013. So if it's been filed, it is an ordinance, and it could be considered a saldo. And I'd like to know what your definition of a saldo is. So we consider any kind of an ordinance by the township, they filed it with you, that's a saldo. That's part of their ordinances that they compiled and they decided on. So you had that in your file, and then you still didn't know, even as of last month when we came over, and we had to inform you. And you even didn't know when you gave them letters. You sent letters to Harford Township, I believe in May of 2014 or 2013. You asked them, you told them there's a permit for a compressor station, there's going to be construction, and Harford did not tell you then that there's a noise ordinance, but they had filed it before June and August of 2013. They just said no objections, there's no explanation for no objections. Also, the letter from the Hailstone, the solicitor for Harford, he says, he mentions zoning ordinances. There are no zoning ordinances, and he gives no reason why county should supersede Harford's ordinance. The Tuttles have come forward here, and they have mentioned that they have medical issues. Ben Tuttle has medical issues since the compressor has been running. And from what we know from information, that compressor was partially running for several months while they were supposedly trying to get a noise survey or to get in compliance with the noise survey. Since when do you have to run something several months to get a noise survey? The noise survey, we have a copy of it here, was completed, I believe, in November and then submitted in December. And I'd like to know why it needs to run for several months, and they had to be subjected to it. The Tuttles have 2 meters, noise meters, the past month that were given to them, and they've been testing, and they've gotten at least 48 decibels in his bedroom, and they have a whole list of readings for outside and inside. So we're getting noise there. There's 43 decibels they found, 48, and we would like the consideration of the medical difficulties that he's been going through with his brain injury, with increased seizures, increased seizure medicine. I also would like a definition for what soundproofing is. County ordinance for compressor stations says soundproofing is required, and muffling of blowdowns. What is the definition? The only definition I can pick up is that soundproofing is impervious to sound. If it's impervious to sound, means we don't hear it. But we are hearing it, residents are hearing it, not only here, but all over the county, within a mile or more of these stations. You need some kind of a definition. So if we're hearing it, we're hearing sounds, then they're not even following on the county level the soundproofing part of the ordinance and the muffling, because we hear the gas releasing within a mile or more. People are hearing that throughout the county. And they heard even some kind of gas releases. So I spoke to Mr. Mike Atchie of Williams, and he says blowdowns are gas releases or valve releases. So I'd like a definition of blowdown, and that's not clear compared to what Mike Atchie has to say with Williams and whatever we have heard also. And what else do we've consulted, Ben Tuttle has consulted attorneys, we've consulted attorneys. We're willing to sue the county if we have to. We're willing to sue the township if we have to, and Williams. And we have to be protected. We're up to 40 compressor stations. This is number 40. We need to be protected as a county. The people need to be protected. So we're willing to sue if we have to. Now, also we have videos of the Harford supervisors. They said they're afraid of being sued, so they're not willing to enforce their ordinances. We cannot have supervisors in positions that are not willing to enforce because they're afraid of being sued. That's not protection of the residents. And they're afraid of being sued by Williams at this point. So the other question is, I don't know what else to say at this point, but if anybody else wants to speak, I'll think of maybe something else too. But I also was given a hard time. I want for the record also that this is all public information, as far as I understand, from even Bob Templeton. Once it's been released to the public, that we have access to it as residents of this county. I found out this morning when I went to ask for a copy of some of the material in the file. I wanted to look in the file for this compressor station. I was told I have to do a right to know. That was brand new. Right to know takes up to 5 days for a response from Mr. Solicitor Tom Marr, if he gives us permission, and then up to 30 days to get the actual documents. This, I feel, is a deterring tactic by the supervisors, and it was Alan Hall. I want for the record to know that Alan Hall insisted on the right to know all of a sudden out of the blue starting today. We should not have to do right to knows for public information that has been released already at previous meetings of this commission. So that is another objection that I have, and I would like that to be known, that Alan Hall, you should make it easier for residents to be able to get information. You should make it easier for transparency in our government and not make it harder for us to be able to find out what's going on. Thank you for the moment. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any comments?
I'd like to say something, please.
Please state your name.
My name is Jill Morrison. I live in South Montrose. I think what we have as far as government, we are trying to do the best we can. We have people trying to, I understand their concerns, but we only can do what the assets and availability we have available to us. Somebody's pressing the point and pressing things that we cannot have availability of money to deal with, And yes, they have other things they can pull from to back them up. And I'm sorry, we are trying as a government, I see all these people and I know all these people. And I can look them in the eye, honestly, and say every person I see here on the committee have helped me so much and done so much for me to find out how I can do it right and forever. But then we have issues and we expand upon them and we explode upon them. And, you know, that's okay. But you know what? We have what's available to us. We don't have the money coming into this county and stuff like that. How can you damn them for doing what they're trying to do the best they can? They've helped everybody that I know in this community.
And what's your name again?
My name is Jill Morrison.
Okay.
I know your name.
I gave my name. My name is Vera Scroggins, in case I didn't give my name.
Yeah. Oh, believe me, everybody knows your name in this county. And
Oh, so are you here? Are you here to
right.
condemn me?
No, I'm not
Are you address the
condemning
board? You do not address me. Address the board.
Okay, we have to stick to agenda items.
I'm not condemning her. I'm stating the point. That's all I'm trying to state. That's all.
Okay, anybody else have a comment on agenda item?
Talk to them about it.
Do you need a statement from me to
Yeah.
add the Susquehanna County Library building project for consideration, the condition of document from the Bridgewater Township Sewer Authority?
Okay, that will be under old business.
Thank you.
Anybody else have a statement or comment to make for public comment?
Mine's going to include non-agenda items, which is covered under the Sunshine Act. So,
Please state your name.
Brett Jennings. Enforcement of the CELDO. I came before this planning commission before and stated that there's trailer parks that have campers in them, which makes them a campground. Do we have to go to, for the ones that have community on lot systems or the private residences that have added a few
I'm sorry.
places for,
That's not on the agenda tonight.
I don't care, under the Sunshine Act, I can speak on this. If you want to do it, the fine can go up to $1,000. It's your choice.
Before you go on further, I'd like somebody else's opinion besides yours about whether or not what you just said is true. I'm not disputing it. Can we go to executive session to get some legal advice? How do we do this?
Regarding the sunshine law?
Regarding whether or not he's able to speak about things.
Actually, I'm going to keep on talking because
Why
if
don't
you
just
try to
let-
stop me, I will file charges for violating the Sunshine Act against
Not
you.
trying to stop you, I'm just trying to
Okay.
I'm trying to find out whether or not what you said is true. That's all I'm asking you. So just give us a second, will you please? Okay?
You can go to newpa.com if you have a computer active right now. Pull up the local government section.
Our
They'll
solicitor
have
happens to be
the,
here. Can we go to executive session and ask him?
yeah, you can.
No, I'm not asking you, but thanks for your input. Will we? That's what I'd like to do.
Can our solicitor answer that?
Solicitor will give you a chance to go into executive session and talk to you.
Okay. Can we go to executive session? Can I request that?
Do we have to have a motion to go to? No? Okay, we will hold a short executive session.
Don't know any. Well, you've already spoken. So. So Harford Township set that up in 2000 to be Susquehanna County, and that's what there's been asking that you should go on townships or
So that should be done.
What's the town? What's the county? How you doing?
Yeah.
I didn't know what the agenda was, honey. I didn't know where to. I didn't know what the agenda was. Is there paper and papers?
Did you sign there?
No, I didn't. I didn't.
Back.
It's awfully cold outside, but we might have gotten you out.
Yeah, I know.
I think it was 10 when I came in.
So they're back from their executive session right now, and what time is it? It's 8:03. They're back from executive session.
Did she already leave?
Yeah.
She had to leave.
Okay, we'll resume our meeting.
And,
Continue with your comments.
and campgrounds or trailer parks. I've watched many trailers get demolished in the Great Bend Trailer Park on Route 11. Whether or not they were demolished following the asbestos rules, I very question it. That's a question for the local enforcement officer, DEP, Labor and Industries, and the DA. By having those campers in those campgrounds, it varies the sewage rentals that are paid. It's lowered the number of EDUs we average for the Halsted Great Bend Joint Sewer Authority because we have a few trailer parks in Great Bend Township, and New Milford Borough also has one, which connects to our sewer plant. There's also private residences that have attached multiple fixtures to allow multiple campers on the properties. And these, you know, it could be handled going to the assessment office, going to COG, seeing if their septic system meets the requirements or it has to be updated. But that's also a campground. If none of these are followed, it's worthless to even have to sell them. Then we get an enforcement of the SELDA for noise with this Miller Compression Station. Yeah, I would say, yeah, follow your SELDA. But you've also been notified that there is an ordinance. Whether or not their solicitor agrees to say follow this or follow that, there's an ordinance there. It's like for municipalities, they're going to have MS4 ordinances whenever DEP gets around to issuing them in this county. We're going to have ordinances for our stormwater. You could take the way this is being handled, say, well, we'll just follow the SELDA, not the municipal separate storm sewer system ordinance. And that can have implications for the permit. Even if in that drainage area of that outfall is outside that municipality and another municipality. Because the permit holder, what's discharged from that, regardless of municipality of that watershed that that outfall is in, is responsible. And that could have other implications, you know, similar to this, where there's a municipal ordinance, possibly a nuisance ordinance, that's trying to be done under land development. And other irregularities with this ordinance, who's able to take the readings? You have industrial hygienists that are certified. You had a program started by OSHA for people, which generally felt that in the 70s. But I know 2 people that still maintain those certifications that still work, although they're getting close to retirement. There should be listing of the monitoring equipment, calibration data, who took the samples, when, not just here's a bunch of results and here's the engineer that signs it. You need to know the technicians. When I do reports, even if it's doing air monitoring, my test gas has to be calibrated every year. I may have to calibrate my equipment with that test gas every time I operate it. And you're not getting that. You're just getting a spreadsheet of results. I can print in some of my equipment what all my readings are through the calibration all the way to the end. And one thing I will add in, the last time that I was at the Susquehanna County Planning Commission meeting, I observed 3 violations of the Sunshine Act. And that was right after the fines changed with the act they passed in 2012, amending the penalty section of the Sunshine Act. And one more thing. And then with connections, you may want to look at their contract between the Montrose Municipal Authority and Bridgewater. They may not be able to take connections during disputes. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else for public comment? State your name, the woman behind it.
I'd like to weigh in on that Harford, Williams
Please
Compressor
state your name.
Station, Harford. I'm Catherine Holleran of Harford. I live right in front of that, where that compressor station sits right on top, right up behind our house. And I think that you should not grant approval to Williams for the compressor station for the noise level being over Harford's ordinance, because we should stick by Harford's ordinance and not cave to the Susquehanna County ordinance level for the noise level, because we should have a little backbone and stick by our township's noise level, which will keep it down. Then I don't have to listen to that really screaming loud compressor station when they start firing up all 5 of those compressors. There's 5 up there. They have one running barely at any level right now at all, and you can hear it. And it's one. When they fire all 5 of those up, it's going to be monstrous. So I say we should not grant them approval to go with the county. It should stick by Harford's noise level ordinance and keep those decibels in. Because I live there and I want to have to listen to it.
Great. Thank you for your comments. Anyone else?
Hi, Craig Stevens, Silver Lake Township. Vera said some things earlier. So we're at 40. This is number 40 compressor station. Bradford County has more wells than we do. They have 25. What's the deal? I'm sure they were reviewing these a little bit further, and I appreciate everybody's service on the board here. I know nobody gets paid, but we're the citizens. You represent really us and make the decisions to protect us. Everything you do pretty much is protective nature. I'm curious about this letter that's included at the last page, where your own, the solicitor from the former solicitor, Andrew Hailstone, dated May 5th, 2014, addressed to Mike Atchie of Williams Field Services, stating that, hey, we're just going to go with the county level, even though he was the one that was a solicitor when this was passed and put into place, and he was probably the one that sent it to you to be put into your own record. I don't care what Williams wants. We're getting bossed and pushed around by the oil and gas industry enough, but they want to put something that spews out tons of VOCs. Do you know what toluene and benzene are? It's not very pretty to breathe it in. Neither is formaldehyde, which comes out of them. I'm just wondering why the state of New York was smart enough. Here's their information. They put out a giant document that the governor of New York decided not to move forward with any of this activity. You know why? In here is covered multiple times what comes out of compressor stations they're worrying about. And you know what they state here? Nobody will tell them what's coming out. They can't get any real-time monitoring. I will ask you, this body, how many of these previously approved, 39, and the ones that are operating, have you, as a body, required, even one, to have real-time air quality monitoring? DEP's not doing it. That doesn't matter to us. If people live next door to it, they and their animals, and their children, and their pregnant moms are breathing this stuff in. You got one motor running, she's saying, out of 5. And I already read the documentation. It's right below 50, so it can get below your number at the front door of the residence. Well, that's not what Harford's ordinance says. It says 25 feet from the fence. That's why Williams went and talked to the Harford former solicitor and tried to get that thrown out, because they can't meet it. That's not your problem. That's their problem. Your problem is you have 2 words you can say, yes or no. I'm not hearing no very much, and that doesn't make me feel too comfortable. I'm a tax-paying citizen of this county. My family's been here almost 200 years. You all knew my grandmother, probably Bernice Price, my father, Lloyd Stevens, my great-grandparents, my great-great-grandparents, and my great-great-great-grandparents. Most of them are buried right down at Brookside Cemetery. I move here and find out this is like the Wild West where I'm from. Nobody's following any rules. All Williams has to come in and threaten to sue you, threaten to sue the township of Harford, and all of a sudden everybody bows down to him. One thing I learned in my 54 years in life, I don't bow down to anybody, especially corporations that come in and tell you this is the way things are to be done now. Not the way you've been doing them for the last 100 years, 200 years, forget it. It's not a good position to put this body in, but you're the ones that are looking to grant approval and override an ordinance. I will read you your own ordinance. Saldo, it's very clear, 710.4, local, state, and federal regulations. All operations shall comply with all applicable local, state, and federal laws and rules and regulations. You can't override it. It's in your own saldo. If you do it, they're going to sue you, and I'm going to join in on it. You're not going to tell Harford what they did was wrong. What they did was to protect themselves. They were smart enough. And by the way, they have some of the strongest noise ordinance in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We're at 40. You're getting ready to put a rubber stamp on 40. We have the most of any county in the Commonwealth. There's a little over 400 compressor stations in the entire Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We have 10% of them here. And not one of you know what's coming out of them really. They'll tell you it's water vapor. It's not water vapor. That's not why. Besides that, there is a great compendium, you can get it, from the health professionals of New York, concerned health professionals in New York. It was one of the main documents that Andrew Cuomo used to say no to the industry coming and destroying their lives, like you guys have allowed the county's lives to be destroyed. Not you in particular and personally, but our elected, tomorrow morning I'll be in front of the county commissioners, reminding them that we pay their paycheck. I will hear, anybody here know that the county has a noise meter that's certified? No, they do not. They don't. They're not planning on buying one. They don't have a certified noise meter. How do you, the county, try to enforce a saldo when you have no way to enforce it? That is absolutely ridiculous. That's like having police and laws. We're going to ignore them tomorrow. Tomorrow's the free run every stop sign day. That's not how laws work. We are a nation of laws. Either we enforce them or we don't. And if you don't, it's called anarchy. The industry is getting away with anarchy, and I'm getting tired of it. We don't pay taxes and have these boards put together. You're not getting paid, so we understand that part. But the 3 people that sit in that room tomorrow morning do. What I'm getting tired of is even the concerned health professionals in New York, it's all over their documentation. Hey, what we don't know is what's coming out of those compressor stations. And we're very concerned because we've seen levels of benzene, toluene, formaldehyde, all these fun things to float around in the air. What I also don't like is the industry is going to let you guys have numbers from one station, one compressor out of 5 running. Okay, so if I promise not to clobber somebody over the head with a hammer, and you guys approve it, okay, he's not going to do that, and then I clobber somebody over the head with a hammer, I have to answer to the law I broke by doing it in the future. When you say yes, I'm going to ask the board. You don't have to answer me. I know the answer already. When it becomes 80 dB at their front door, after you approve it, when they turn on all 5, are you going to enforce it? Are you going to tell them to shut it down until they can get it down below 50? No, you're not. There's a beautiful flagpole out front here. It's got 2 beautiful flags on it. That costed $5,000, we were told, 2 weeks ago at the county commissioners meeting. $5,000. So we can spend $5 grand on a new flagpole, which looks really nice out there. We can't buy a certified noise meter and have somebody in this county job to go when somebody complains that's a taxpaying citizen, or when I do, about a noise ordinance that the county has being violated. They can't even go test for it and then go to the company and say, hey, you're violating our noise ordinance. We went to the front door of the nearest building or 2 and you're over 50 dB, so it's time for you to turn it off until you can get it below that. And every time we catch you after it, it's a $10,000 fine or $5,000 fine or whatever you guys decide to do in the county. What I'm getting sick of is everybody kowtows to the industry because they might sue us. Really. What do we care? You have a chance to say one of 2 of the most powerful words in the English language. Yes or no. The problem is, if you attempt to override Harford's right to self-rule, which is what this is, they're not falling for this. Maybe they passed that because they found out the county doesn't own a noise meter and can't even test and show who's violating their own noise ordinances. Hey, we're at 40. Why don't we stop at number 40, take a little setback? What I want to know is the other 39. Which one of you are going to have somebody from the county go test number 1 that you approved 5 or 6 years ago and see if it's violating the noise ordinance? How about number 2? How about number 10? How about number 25? There's my problem. You're putting the yes on this. You want to put the yes on it. We know what you want to do. It says it right clearly here in the statement that the solicitor is right here. He's a lawyer. That's called the law. The problem with the law is when there is a law on the books and you ignore it, that is a violation of the law. It's a very serious violation of the law. He knows it. He's a solicitor. You can't override a law. What they have to do, Mr. Solicitor, is the Harford Township would have to actually strike that law. They'd have to actually vote again. And then when they tried to do that, all the nice citizens of Harford would show up with pitchforks and torches and tell them, no, you're not. We like that law. It was put in place to protect us. Protective laws are the most important laws any county, state, or federal government puts in place. It's for protection. They're there for a reason. Now, if the breathing in formaldehyde to all the animals that can't even tell you when they're being harmed by it around the station you want to approve and the other 39 you already have doesn't get to you, then why are we here talking about a stupid sound ordinance? This is ridiculous. We're going to worry about a sound ordinance, which I agree with and you should make them follow, but we're not worried about what's spewing out oh, my ears hurt, but I can't breathe and I just coughed up my lungs because of the formaldehyde in the air. This is insanity. So I would ask this evening, you tabled it last time. The smartest thing this body can do is table it and figure out if Harford's going to change their law. Because if you try to override it, you're violating your own saldo. And let's see the lawyer back here get out of it. He can't. Because he could read too. I can read your own. Then you have to change that too. And strike local from your own saldo. Try that one. And we'll all show up the same with even more people than you're seeing here. It's not against you, the body. You have the power of yes or no. You've said yes 39 other times. It's time to say no once and find out what really happens. By the way, I don't know if you know it, but you can look it up. Williams is about $6 billion in debt. $6 billion between their two companies. $6 billion. They don't have any money to sue anybody. And we got plenty of money. How much guaranteed money did the county get, Bob? You know, what, $500 million, $600,000 in the last 2 years? About $300,000 a year, I think. We have had $600,000 come in that's supposed to be tailored to things having to do with the industry, and we can't have a real-time air quality monitoring done on one of the 39 compressor stations you've already approved? That's ridiculous, if I say so myself. You can't buy one noise meter and have one officer that I can call and ask to come and take a reading if I believe it's over it. But I can buy one at Radio Shack for $100 and do the testing myself. But it's not certified, that's in your documentation. But you don't own one. So you're violating your own saldo. You're violating your own noise ordinance. It's 50 dB. Yours is. But it's from the front door of the nearest home or business that's occupied. But when it's violated, like we've already got readings in Liberty and all these other townships where they're already going well over 50 dB, you haven't done nothing about it. So what I'm guessing is, we're going to attempt a yes tonight. We're going to say yes, and let Williams do whatever they want to us. Once again, number 40. Do the right thing. I don't know if you had to swear an oath when you signed up for this, like elected officials do, but most of the oaths are, I'm protected with the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and it right in there is I have a right to clean air, pure water, and I'm surely, and the environment, and that doesn't include 80 dB blasting in my back window 24 hours a day until it goes up to 120 when they vent. If you've ever been near when it's like a jet engine taking off for hours, and they're doing it from 12 a.m. to 2 in the morning usually, because there's nobody to call from DEP. So please do the right thing. You're all good people. You're all local community people. I'm sure you're great people, but you have a chance to do what I said to my kids, my 4 children, every time they were doing something that might harm them. No! That's what I said to them. Stop! You're going to hurt yourself. Please use that powerful word, no, and tell Williams, meet the requirement of the Harford ordinance. It's not up to us. Harford overrides us because that's the reality. And if you don't, then don't worry about Williams suing you. Why not? We're going to sue the county, we're going to sue the planning commission, and we're going to sue everybody else involved in Williams too, because what they're trying to do is the worst of all things. Circumvent the process and go around the law. There is no around the law. So I really appreciate the time for allowing me to speak. I hope that you're looking at that. Number 40, just say no to it, and let's find out what happens. And while we wait for this one to get approved, let's use that $600,000, some of that money we got, they probably stuffed in the bank, and get a real-time air quality monitoring out of the largest compressor station that we have in the county that you guys have already allowed. Stamp that one and said yes. I would love to know what's coming out of it because I want to find out what I'm breathing when I'm living here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's move on to old business.
Wait a second, there's more comments. There's more comments. You can ask for more comments. You didn't ask for more comments. Sunshine law allows comments.
No.
You're closing a meeting before comments. I object on record. You're closing a meeting before.
I'll allow you a couple minutes to say.
Thank you. I'll be very brief. My name is Megan Holleran. I also live right around the hill from this compressor station. And not only do I agree with my mother and with Craig and Vera about the following Harford's noise ordinance, which I would really appreciate if he would make them do and follow that law. Also, just to back him up on some of the air quality comments, I work for the gas companies and the pipelines. I recently had to do safety training. It's a brand new thing that they're making us do now to work for some of the gas industry, and they safety train us on air quality around compressor stations and wells. And it's a little scary. As employees, when they send us out there, they tell us what to do if we smell something, if we feel lightheaded, and if air quality monitors show things on the air. As an employee, we're trained in what to do. As a resident, we are given no information on this. It's a little bit scary, and it makes you think that, you know, no matter what's coming out of all the different agencies reporting on air quality monitoring, the gas companies are training their employees to be wary of these things. And because of that, this is right across the hill from my house. Just, you know, maybe don't let them put it there. Protect our Air Force. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
I have something to say. Julianne Skinner, Montrose Borough Council. I think that you should give serious consideration to not overriding Harford Township's ordinance. It takes a lot of money, it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of time to do an ordinance that they paid for. We just did ours, the consultant, the meetings. Why would you do that? Why would you to one of their municipalities? It's beyond me. Secondly, have you done it before?
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
I gotta amend mine. One of the things, Brett Jennings, 28 August 2012 meeting, Williams came here to increase the size of one of their compression stations from 3 to 5. At the same night at the high school in Montrose, DEP was having a hearing for 3 compression stations. You may want to check to see what their permit is being issued for, because many of the original compression stations, they were all being run for 3 engines to keep them a minor permit instead of a major.
Okay, thank you.
And I want to amend also my comment. I want to make sure that you know, for the record, since the Tuttles are not here, they were planning to be here. Something must have happened that they couldn't make it. Hopefully it's not anything awful. But I want to just say that the Tuttle family filed at least 3 noise complaints with their township about this compressor station. They asked for help. The township would not give them any help, did not enforce it. Then they were told they can call the state police. They called the state police. State police did not help. And then they spoke to Jason Lake this past week or so. Jason Lake said to file a complaint, a criminal complaint, which they did. They filed a criminal complaint saying that they did not get help from the police either. So we have several complaints from this family about non-enforcement. I want you to know that. And I want you to know that in the building thing of the county code, it says that all compressors and equipment other than condensate tanks and other non-mechanical support equipment shall be located within a fully enclosed building with soundproofing and blow-down silencers and mufflers. I want to also make sure that you know that fans are located outside the building on all of these compressor stations. They make a lot of noise also. They need to be soundproofed somehow in some kind of a building, some way, and they're not being done. And that's in your own saldo. So I want to make sure you know that, and that's on the record also. And I'm asking for another noise survey to be done based on the Harford Township ordinance, which says it has to be done within 25 feet of the property line. This compressor station is on 30 acres on a long access road. Within 25 feet of that 30 acres, we want a noise survey done and see if they can pass the Harford Township ordinance, which is a 50 decibel maximum. And you're supposed to have everything done according to your own saldo to be based on all applicable laws, which includes local, county, and state. And we must include the local laws. And there should be a sign at the entrance too, just to let you know, so we know that this monstrous thing is on top of the hill. Thank you.
All right, let's move on to subdivision and land development review. Number 1, Rush Township Supervisors. Land development, Rush Township requesting final approval. Eleanor?
What they did was they built a cinder shed. Anybody want to see the map?
I think this is the one we saw last month.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Does anybody want to see the map for the Rush Township?
Just saying there's a plan, unexpected.
Great.
The Susquehanna County Planning Commission at the regular meeting held on September 30th, 2014, granted preliminary approval of the Rush Township Supervisor's Land Development Plan conditioned on receipt of a copy of the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation driveway permit and receipt of a copy of the NPDES permit from the appropriate regulating agency. The plan is for a new cinder shed on lands owned by Rush Township supervisors along State Route 267 north of Law. On December 30, 2014, our office had received the 2 items mentioned above, and the plan was granted preliminary approval. Now the development is completed, and the Rush Township supervisors are requesting final approval of their plan. John Butler visited the site and found it to be developed in accordance with the approved preliminary plan. Staff recommendation is grant final approval of the Rush Township Supervisor's Land Development Plan.
Does anyone have any questions on the plan?
I'll make a motion that we approve the Rush Township Supervisor's Land Development Plan.
Second.
Motion has been made by John and seconded by Harry to approve the Rush Township Supervisor's Land Development Plan. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Motion carried. Next is Andre and Son Incorporated, Commercial Development, Building number 13, Bridgewater Township, requesting final approval. And Bob has that.
Okay, Susquehanna County Planning Commission at their regular meeting held on September 24th, 2013, granted preliminary approval of the Andre and Son Incorporated plan for a new building to house the power sports store on their lands along State Route 706 in Bridgewater Township. Approval was conditioned on receipt of the municipality report form from the Bridgewater Township supervisors within the Commission's allowable review period. On October 3rd, 2013, our office received the municipality report form from the Bridgewater Township supervisors, and the plan was granted preliminary approval. It was agreed by the Commission at the September 24th, 2013 meeting that the requirement for screening from the neighboring mobile home would be waived if the owner of the mobile home next door agrees to have no screening installed. If screening is required, it would be one of the requirements for final approval of the plan. So now the development is complete and the owners are requesting final approval. A written agreement relative to the need for screening has been submitted, signed by Scott Andre and Rudy Scarfalato. The agreement states that both parties have agreed to waive their requirement for screening between the properties. And I have a copy of that agreement if anybody needs to see it. So then the staff recommendation is grant a waiver of section 707.1 yards and buffers in consideration of the agreement between the two parties regarding screening. Grant final approval of the Andre and Son Incorporated Commercial Land Development for Building 13 in Bridgewater Township. I don't know if you've seen that building, but the building itself sits way above the trailer. They'd have to plant like 80-foot trees in order to screen it. And actually we agreed to that.
Okay.
It just wouldn't be anywhere.
Okay, motion's in order. On the Andre and Son Commercial Land Development.
Oh, I'm sorry. I make a motion to accept it. Approve it.
Second it.
Pete. A motion has been made by Chris and seconded by Pete to grant a waiver of section 707.1 yards and buffers in consideration of the agreement between the two parties regarding screening, and to grant final approval of the Andre and Son Incorporated Commercial Land Development for Building 13 in Bridgewater Township. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Next is Williams Field Services, Miller Compressor Station, Industrial Development, Harford Township, requesting final approval. And a motion is in order to remove it from tabled state.
So moved.
I'll second that.
A motion has been made by Chris and seconded by John to remove the plan from tabled state. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay.
Nay.
Motion carried.
Okay, yeah. The Susquehanna County Planning Commission, at their regular meeting held on December 30th, 2014, tabled the plan in order to seek the guidance of the county solicitor relative to the issue of Harford Township's noise ordinance. I met with the county solicitor on Wednesday, December 31st, 2014, and was asked to request in writing any information from the Harford Township supervisors or their solicitor relative to the Harford Township noise ordinances. On January 5th, 2015, I received the facts from the Harford Township supervisors, which included a letter from their previous solicitor, Andrew Hailstone, dated May 5th, 2014, and addressed to Mike Atchie of Williams Field Services, stating that the provisions of the, quote, Susquehanna County zoning ordinance, unquote, should be followed rather than Harford's noise ordinance. I gave a copy of this letter to our solicitor. I also called Mr. Jamie Hailstone, who I was told by the Harford Township supervisors is their current solicitor. Mr. Jamie Hailstone stated that he would contact the Susquehanna County solicitor to discuss the matter. On Friday, January 16th, the county solicitor called and reminded me that the county subdivision and land development ordinance requires that plans be forwarded to the affected municipality and that the commission has the discretion to accept or not accept the comments of the municipality. In this case, the plan was sent to Harford Township and the municipality report form was returned marked, quote, no objections, unquote. Further, the township sent a letter written by their solicitor which states that the county's noise requirements should be followed rather than the township's noise ordinances. The plan meets the requirements of the Susquehanna County Subdivision Land Development Ordinance, including the noise requirements. The staff recommendation is to grant final approval of the Williams Field Services Miller Compressor Station in plan in Harford Township. Additionally, you have before you the memo from the county solicitor, which gives the reasons why, or the reason why the county's ordinance takes control rather than the township ordinance. The county ordinance applies.
Are there any questions from the board?
Yes.
Kathy?
The plan meets the requirements, but are the requirements, the noise requirements actually met? And I know that we've discussed this before, that the only time it has to be met is when they do the official sound assessment, a sound assessment, but that's when there's only one or two compressors running, and it seems that that's not always the case afterwards. And maybe this is not the time to talk about it, but maybe there should be some follow-up to make sure that the sound assessment remains below the level of 50 decibels outside in terms of the county ordinance, outside of the door of the closest house. And also we've heard that maybe the sound jumps over and is louder later, or louder farther away. That should also be checked out. There should not be any house that has more than the amount of 50 decibels outside it. Now, I also have heard that the township supervisors of Harford Township had that noise requirement at just outside the fence, but that they did not have any objections to the municipality in the municipality report form. I don't think that's our problem. Our problem is this an ongoing thing? Is the sound requirements followed all the time, or just when we feel like it? Just at one particular time, when there's one particular noise assessment, and after that, it doesn't matter. Does that constitute what we're trying to do here, which is protect our public? We've heard some very cogent remarks tonight, and I think we should be taking those into consideration as well.
I agree with Kathy. I think there's much more to be considered here than just this ordinance that's before us on this piece of paper, and that we've had some pretty compelling people come forth and tell us, what's really going on. And I know we have to go by our ordinance and the letter of the law, but then again, we all have to share this earth, and I think we all need to take a hard look at this because we're setting a precedence here. I also believe this should be stayed on the table, should be tabled. Again, it should not be voted
on. My question is, how long can we keep it tabled before it just passes the way a pocket veto would be about a veto?
I think we need to ask more questions than we're asking. I think there's a lot more questions that need to be brought up. It's not just about the noise ordinance. Several of the things that the people have brought forth, I think Bob could tell you, I have questioned many times since I've sat on this planning commission.
You also talked about the VOCs.
What's that?
You're also talking about the VOCs.
And I just think there's a lot more information we need to collect before we make a decision on this. And I really feel strongly it needs to go back to being tabled, and we need to figure out what questions we need to ask. A lot has to come from our commissioners.
Well, I don't think just tabling it is going to solve the problem. I don't think this noise ordinance belongs in a Sawville. It's more of a zoning issue. And eventually it's going to have to be litigated, or the county will have to take it out of the ordinance. I don't see any choice. So if it's going to be litigated, you might as well start here. We've already approved a lot of compressor stations, and we have no method of enforcing any of the requirements once the thing is approved. So I don't think it, something's got to be done other than us sitting here and basically having to decide it on our own. So I don't think it belongs in the Sawville, and I do expect it to be litigated at some time.
Well, if we are a planning commission, we are not the government.
Exactly.
It is the government that has to make sure that things happen the correct way all the way through, but is the government prepared to do that?
Well, none of us wrote these rules. They were probably, the majority of them were taken from some other municipality in the beginning, and a few odds and ends were put in that's specific to Susquehanna County.
And we brought it to Susquehanna County commissioners, and they passed the ordinance. It's not our ordinance.
Right.
So we have no way of enforcing it.
And that's the problem.
And that's the problem.
Well, that's where I'm coming to the point that it doesn't belong in the ordinance. It's such a detailed thing when you get right down to it. I think we found out at one time that the federal government sound requirements are greater than, I think they were either 55 or 60 decibels that they require. So I also don't think that we should be enforcing township ordinances. I think that's way beyond
this really isn't our ordinance. We didn't pass it. We suggested it, and it's the county commissioners that passed it. And I think that's something that everybody has to understand. And we cannot enforce any of it. It's the county commissioners that have to enforce it.
We do have to follow the code that we have set before us. There's no question about that. We do have the power not to approve the plan until we get further information that makes it more clear what we're approving.
Well, as far as noise, though, after the fact, we don't know, we have no idea what that's going to be. It could be a lot worse, could be a lot less. And we have no authority to control any noise after that.
Which goes back to enforcement of what we set forth here. Which is not a question for us, it's a question for our commissioners.
I do have an answer on that.
Oh, I know what the answer is.
I don't.
It doesn't make
Okay. Two of the county commissioners came to my office last week, and Attorney Marr was there at that time, for one of them at least. And two of the county commissioners said that the noise requirement in the subdivision ordinance, the intent of the noise requirement in the subdivision ordinance is a design standard, not a maintenance standard. Once the plan is approved, that's the end of the county's involvement as far as requiring anything on noise. That was
But the design includes more compressors, which we need more noise.
Okay, and the answer I received on that was as long as the engineers, by taking the noise readings for 2 engines and then extrapolating that to see what it would be for 5 engines, if that is the standard practice, an engineering practice, then that should be acceptable to the planning commission. Those are the answers I received.
Which about that, it ties our hands, doesn't it?
And how do you know it's a standard practice?
You're not commenting.
Well, we can do point of order. If I say point of order, we can say what we want. So let me tell you, this letter is incorrect. You're saying that you're not accepting comments from Harford Township. They're not comments. That is a written law that they passed. Written law. Comments. It says in this letter. That letter is invalid because of that document.
Would
Next.
the solicitor like to address that?
Thank you for the opportunity, Mrs. Chairman. Mr. Stevens has been eloquent in his defense of the rule of law. Why does this saldo rate? It's the applicable rules, as you stated a number of times, reading the ordinance, the saldo, all applicable local, federal, etc. regulations. Is the township ordinance applicable? According to section 502 of the municipal planning, subdivision and land development ordinance, the ordinance applies until an individual municipality within the county enacts its own ordinance and files a certified copy of the ordinance with the county planning agency. It's not just a noise ordinance, it's a subdivision and land development ordinance. If on the record here tonight, Harford Township has adopted a saldo, then that has to be considered. If there is only a noise ordinance, the saldo, the county subdivision and land development ordinance, rules. The commissioners have asked me to be here tonight to explain that as the legal position of the county. Ms. Scroggins has occasionally asked, that's just your opinion as a lawyer. Absolutely true. I'm the lawyer of the county, though, and the commissioners have hired me to give them legal representation, to expand tonight on the memo I wrote for Mr. Templeton. In my legal opinion, the Municipal Planning Code, section 502, states the law, and we are following the law. I might be wrong. Someday I would lose my job if the commissioners find I do that wrong often enough.
Attorney Marr, I appreciate what you're saying.
Well, let me finish my comment.
Go ahead.
The law is applicable. If Ms. Scroggins' point is that I am a fallible lawyer, I agree 100%. That is my interpretation of the applicable laws as they stand today. Okay? Harford Township's ordinance on noise is not applicable in any of the areas the SALDO covers, the county SALDO. Now, Ms. Scroggins, this was not a question I've been asked by the commissioners to consider, but it's an important one raised tonight on an issue before the commission tonight. Did Harford pass a SALDO? If that's the case, then that's an important thing this commission needs to know. I believe Mr. Templeton would be aware of a SALDO having been passed by a municipality, and he would have dealt with that issue already. But in my opinion, as requested by the county commissioners for the county's legal position, the SALDO governs in this matter.
And Attorney Meyer, I will just counteract that. I'm not a lawyer myself, but I can read. That doesn't say a SALDO. It says a local, county, state, or federal law or ordinance. That doesn't say
you're
SALDO.
referring to section 710
710.
of the SALDO. Yes. It says applicable, local, federal, and state.
Absolutely applies. It's a decimal.
But as I tried to just explain to you, it is not applicable because the SALDO at the county level governs everything it touches. The ordinances that any township would say, is this dealt with in your SALDO? Then that ordinance is not applicable.
Then I will go back to one thing. They have to file a document, Williams does, claiming that this is not, they did file them with this body, that they will not exceed that ordinance, the noise level. And what I'm hearing, there is conflict here, you know it, you can hear them. They don't know what happens when they fire up all 5. I can promise you, I won't violate a law, but once I violate it after you pass it, that puts in jeopardy the people that passed it on their good word. Their word is not good.
Those are issues that need to be dealt with in what the SALDO says. But the main issue raised tonight, both by you and Ms. Scroggins, was, are we following the rule of law in this county? My argument, I've just explained it to you, is yes, we are. My legal opinion is that the SALDO governs. The Harford Township noise ordinance does not govern. If Mr. Templeton can represent to the commission tonight that there is no SALDO enacted by that township, that municipality, then our SALDO, county SALDO, governs.
Then does the county have an ordinance in place?
The county has its SALDO.
Do they have any ability to enforce it?
Well, again, that's...
No, you have to know that answer, or else you can't.
No, I don't have to
Yes,
know
you
that.
do.
No, sir, with all due respect, I don't have to know that answer. I have to know the answer which you raised really in your eloquent comments. Are we following the rule of law? You read the law. This is my opinion of what the law says. If you disagree with my opinion, if others disagree, if I'm found wrong by a court, that's part of my job. But we are following the law as I understand it, and that's why the commission, if I prove it tonight, is acting on the SALDO rather than the Harford.
Did I hear Mr. Templeton say that 2 of the county commissioners were in his office the other day discussing this? That's a violation of public meetings law. It has to be announced.
Again, that's not just simply not true, and we could discuss that at some other occasion. But the commissioners asked me to be here tonight to expand on the memo I gave to Mr. Templeton regarding the perceived conflict between the township ordinance and the SALDO. I've tried to give you an expanded answer on that. So if the commission's...
But I heard your recommendation, sir, was to say yes already.
Was what?
Your recommendation to them is to pass this evening. I've read the document.
I can tell you I've made no recommendation. This is my place. I'm a lawyer for the county.
Document.
And I also want to say that on the website of Harford Township, there is over 40 ordinances that they have compiled and that they have passed. And they passed this noise ordinance that they have in 2010, 2 of them, in 2011. They have a whole group of ordinances which would constitute a SALDO, and they submitted at least one of the ordinances in your file, and that was something that was done and was not even presented to the meeting last month, and no one even knew about it. It was in their file. So they have it on their website. They have a whole group of ordinances that they've worked out and have dealt with and have enforced to whatever degree in their county. So as far as I can see, it's a SALDO. It is a group of subdivision land ordinances, and that's basically, unless you have a different definition of SALDO, it's a group of ordinances for subdivision and land ordinances.
Okay, does anyone care to make a motion? I think Harry is hard. Right?
I make a motion that we accept the item 3 for final approval.
I'll second it.
Motion has been made by Chris and seconded by John to grant final approval of the Williams Field Services Miller Compressor Station Plan in Harford Township. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Nay?
Nay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Chris and John voted yes,
Yes.
and Pete voted yes. Harry?
I voted yes.
So we have 4 yeses and 2 nays. Kathy and Rick voted nay. So the motion is carried.
And what is your basis for how many yeses and nos? How do you decide what is carried? What is your protocol?
Majority.
A majority of whatever's a majority?
Next, the Susquehanna County Library, asking for conditional approval of revision, would it be called?
I would say, yeah,
Or
the
revision of the conditional approval. Should I ask?
I can report a little.
Okay.
From memory, and this, according, let me first say this. I checked the bylaws, and there was a section in there that says that the planning commission can act on items which are brought forth either by memo or vocal or so I will try to do
That are not on the written agenda.
Yes.
And so this is the case with the Susquehanna County Library.
So I'm going to leave now and end this taping. It's not completely done. It's almost 9 o'clock, 3 to 9.